How did the green card backlog get so bad, and what legislation has been introduced in Congress to fix it? A lot of you have been talking about the Jumpstart Act, which is one of the proposals recently introduced in Congress that would recapture unused green cards. But there are actually several bills to recapture unused numbers that have been introduced, with a couple that could even prevent future backlogs from occurring. So let's take a look at why we urgently need green card reform and what different proposals are already on the table. And if this is your first time on my channel, be sure to subscribe and turn on the notifications for regular immigration news updates. And if you would like to get my help on your case, please call my office to schedule a case evaluation at 212-248-7907. So what caused the green card backlog, and why do we urgently need to reform the system? Every year, the US sets aside 226,000 family preference green cards and 140,000 employment-based green cards. Immigrants who are not designated immediate relatives of US citizens are subject to these annual caps, as well as the per-country caps that prevent any one country from issuing more than 7% of the total percent of green cards each year. These restrictions were fixed in statute by the 1990 Immigration and Nationality Act and has not been changed since. The intention of the 1990 Act was actually to increase immigration and prevent green cards from going unused. But the world has changed since, and our immigration system has not changed with it. The legislation says that if fewer than 226,000 family preference green card slots are issued in a given year, then they may fall across the employment categories in the following year. The problem is, this process rarely works the other direction. If fewer than 140,000 employment-based green card slots are used in a year, then they almost never fall across to the family categories. Instead, unused employment-based green cards only fall across when the total number of immediate relative green cards plus the number of unused employment-based green cards is less than 254,000, which has not happened in over 2 decades. So the number of family preference green cards is set each year at the statutory minimum of 226,000, even if employment numbers went unused the year before. As a result, green cards have been incrementally lost over time, resulting in an increasing backlog of immigrants left in limbo as they wait for their priority date to become current in the visa bulletin. This backlog was made even worse when the COVID pandemic caused government services to close down in March of 2020, resulting in 66,781 employment-based green cards going to waste in fiscal year 2021. And the problem is repeating itself, with the government failing to issue roughly 150,000 family-based visas last year. Now that those numbers have fallen across to the employment categories, they will be lost if they're not issued by September 30th of 2022. So what can be done to fix the green card backlog, and who is responsible for doing it? The best option would be for Congress to increase numerical limitations and modify per-country caps so a backlog is unable to pile up in the first place. The United States has issued an average of 1 million green cards each year since the 1990 Immigration and Nationality Act, despite increases in population and GDP. So the solution that makes the most sense is to reform the outdated systems and award a larger number of green cards to immigrants each year. Unfortunately, due to political gridlock, this is unlikely to happen, so the next best option is green card recapture by Congress, DHS, or executive action. The process of recapturing green cards would allocate the total number of unused green cards since 1992 to applicants waiting in the backlog, which could be as little as 230,000 or as many as 1.6 million, depending on how the number is calculated. There are 3 primary different methods of recapture that typically are discussed. Administrative recapture, which could be done by President Biden without involving Congress, would recapture around 231,584 green cards. AC-21 recapture, which was used by Congress in the American Competitiveness in the 21st Century Act of 2000, would recapture around 339,206 green cards. And USCA recapture, which was proposed in the US Citizenship Act of 2021 and would recapture more than 940,000 green cards. If we look at the number of unused immigration slots since 1992, the total number could reach 2.21 million, including 561,000 family numbers, 582,000 employment numbers, numbers and 491,000 employment numbers that were previously recaptured but never used. In addition to Congress and the President recapturing unused green cards, DHS could also adopt a new policy that reserves available green cards for immigrants since the State Department's visa bulletin confirms they are available, regardless of whether USCIS and the State Department can process that paperwork this year. That would prevent green cards from being lost to bureaucratic delays and could be implemented retroactively to essentially recapture green cards that were unused before the policy went into effect. Now that we know what the potential solutions are, what legislation has been introduced in Congress to implement them? Multiple green card recapture proposals have recently been introduced, with some far more sweeping than others. The one I see mentioned the most in YouTube comments is the Jumpstart Act, which would recapture around 222,000 unused family-sponsored visas, 157,000 unused employment-based visas, and 40,000 unused diversity visas. It would also allow immigrants, their dependents, and dreamers to file their adjustment of status without awaiting until a visa is available in their category. Another proposal that would reclaim a large number of visas is the US Citizenship Act, which would recapture over 940,000 unused employment-based and family preference green cards. The bill also seeks to reclaim numbers that were lost due to bureaucratic delays since 1992 and to equalize wait times for applicants by eliminating employment-based per-country caps and raising per-country caps for family immigration from 7% to 20%. There are also some smaller bills with a far more narrow scope of recaptures, such as the House Budget Act, which reclaims between 221,000 and 911,000 green cards. The Department of Homeland Security Appropriations Act, which would recapture 262,281 unused family numbers and 72,000 diversity numbers. The Preserving Employment Visas Act, which was introduced by Republican Senator Thom Tillis and would only recapture around 71,000 unused employment numbers from fiscal years 2020 and 2021. The Healthcare Workforce Resilience Act, which would only make 40,000 visas available for doctors and nurses, the Keeping Our Promise Act, which limits recapture to diversity visas, and the Relief Act, which is a backlog reduction bill that increases the annual limits of green cards issued for 5 years until the backlogs are eliminated. While these bills would provide some relief short-term, only the Jumpstart Act and the US Citizenship Act would prevent future green card backlogs from being created. What do you think? Will the growing backlog eventually force the government to take action? Leave me a comment below and let me know. And if you are stuck waiting for the NBC to schedule your interview, be sure to watch my recent video with an update on visa interview schedules worldwide. I'll include a link to that video here. I will also continue bringing you additional immigration news as it's available, so be sure to subscribe and turn on the notifications if you haven't done so yet. Click here to watch this video next, and I'll see you there.